So when I talk about this subject, I usually like to start with a principle. I ask my audience, what is digital? It's the term we throw around a lot, especially in analyst land. But at Forrester, we have a definition of digital. We say that digital refers to business models with technology at the core. So whatever the business is, technology is at the center of it. I like to reframe this. I point out that if this is the case, technology is at the core, then software should be an expression of the business. It's how you get things done. It manifests what you are. And practically speaking, what this means is that any of a firm's policies, processes, procedures, data, know-how, whatever, those things should be quickly implemented in software and then continuously improved. So you don't use other means to get those things done. In general, you should use software to get those things done. That's part of what being digital means in the real world. But the question then is how, because this is pretty hard. There's a reality that a lot of enterprises deal with even if they accept that principle, and that reality is that there aren't enough developers. Ask any software leader this question, they'll tell you, unless you're working on really cool stuff or paying really good money, it's pretty hard to find good developers, but there's a lot of apps that need made. And what this leads to naturally is that in a lot of firms, this is our work reality. This is what we have to deal with. A lot of what makes us who we are, the invisible DNA of how we run things and do things, is it's in paper and spreadsheets. This is from a survey we did about a year ago now, pre-COVID. But at that time, 3/4 of the firms we talked to had at least a few paper-based dependencies for their processes. And well over 90% had at least a few Excel and email-based processes. As you can imagine, when COVID hit and remote work started and all the complexity and new things that needed to be done and new loads were put on systems and so on, a lot of this stuff broke. Right? A lot of this undigitized, invisible junk broke. And that's bad, right? This is the problem we want to address if we're going to be really digital. So I framed it as a capacity problem, but in our view, this is more than a capacity problem. It's actually a culture problem. I have a couple quotes here. This one's from a Forrester report where we point out that at a really digital firm, leaders should ensure that digital is part of the DNA. It's everyone's job in some way. Everyone's involved. They understand software and apply it and see it as something that's intrinsic to the business. And this is a quote. It's you got to take a second to wrap your brain around its implications, but this is from a thinker I really respect, Mike Rother, from one of his books. And he talks about what it means to be adaptive, to change the organization for business conditions, basically change what you do and how you do it when you need to in a really fast way. And he points out that, well, all companies adapt to some degree, but if that adaptation's only periodic and conducted by specialists, that means you're not really adaptive. That's what this quote says. And to me, this sounds very much like IT. If you think about it, the model of a centralized development team that's scarce resources and have to prioritize projects all the time and keep the lights on and so on, that's exactly what this is, right? It's specialists periodically conducting adaptation is really what it is. And that's one of the intrinsic problems here is really everyone in a business should to some degree be involved in digital work, right? And expressing the business in software, because how else are you going to be a truly software-driven business? It really isn't possible.